Made in Abyss is a deep show. Literally, it's a story about a hole, and have you seen how deep this thing is? I've made 3 videos talking about the story, the world, environment and many other mysteries. But there is still more to explore and we didn't even got any glimpse of the bottom. Today I want to further shed more light on the mysteries of the world by answering some of the most asked questions by the fans. So let's begin. Are all hollows the same species? Hollows are a result of the curse. If you try to ascend from the 6th layer, it is said that the curse will take your humanity, transforming you into a hollow, a blob of meat. It's not really correct to call them a species. It's more like a disease that mutilates people. But at the same time, in season 2 we meet with the inhabitants of the Iluburu village, which are a different kind of hollows. They kept their humanity, but they still have their body transformed to some degree. And all of them have an unique appearance and little in common between each other. So the short answer is no, they are not literally a new species, but you can consider a different type of creatures. How does the curse work? Can be avoided, and are there any other creatures that are immune to the curse? The curse triggers in the moment someone tries to ascend the abyss. It seems that this hole wants you to go only down and to prevent you from going back up. So far it looks like the curse affects only the beings made of flesh. The only exception is Reg, which is half flesh, half robot. Objects like the interference units or even plants are not affected by the curse. Maybe Reg species have their most affected body parts by the curse removed and replaced with metal, making them immune. But then there are the inhabitants of the abyss, the many creatures that are found here. The curse is like a mist that is all over the abyss, but there are spots where the mist is not present, like Nanachi's hideout. But there are also small holes in the mist where you can pass through and avoid the curse. The curse is invisible for the normal eye, but the creature in the abyss can see it, allowing them to avoid it, to navigate through the small holes that are found in this mist. When Nanachi is transformed into a mutant hollow, it is said that he received the blessing of the abyss, which means now Nanachi had become like a creature born from the abyss. Now Nanachi is a part of this place and can also see the curse. It has the same abilities that a creature has. But both him and the creatures can still be affected by the curse. It's just they know how to avoid it. Reg is the only one that is completely not affected. Okay, there is also Faputa, but she was born from artifacts and she seems to be a relic or something. We will get there. So, the next question is, can dwellers acclimate to the curse? With the exception of the 6th layer, dwellers and explorers are said to ascend the abyss multiple times. The curse is not that bad around the 1st layers. Around the 4th layer, things start to get bad, but still, there are many individuals like the White Whistle that often travels all around the abyss. Like Bondrewd. Bondrewd is at the 5th layer and he often comes to the surface. So you can get used to it. It's like motion sickness. It can be bad, but you can get used to it depending how much you experience it. Well, at least some people can do it. So yes, some dwellers can acclimate, but definitely not many of them. The next question is Nanachi immune to the curse of the abyss? Like we discussed, no. Again, Nanachi can see the curse and travel between the cracks and the holes in the mist, making Nanachi and the other abyss creatures looking from the outside like they are immune to it, but they can still be affected in the same way if they don't pay attention. Is Reg the same individuals as the one found in Lyza's notes? So Lyza sends some notes to the surface about her findings. She seems like she reached a depth that no one had reached before, and on her expedition she encountered many monstrous and weird beings. One of those creatures is similar to Reg, but this guy or girl doesn't seem to be Reg. It might be though the one that appears in one of Reg's flashbacks. In the sketch, this creature has the eye of the helmet in the middle, and also looks like it has claws instead of hands, so it's more probable to be a relative of Reg instead of actual being him. Now, Lyza probably had met Reg before because Reg has memories of her, but it seems that he was not the first of his species that Lyza have met. What do the patterns on Reg's helmet mean? Well, we don't know exactly. All artifacts have a pattern of symbols on them that change after a number of uses. What it actually means is still a mystery. Nanachi theorizes that the patterns are a countdown, like the remaining uses of the artifact. What happens after the countdown reaches 0? Well, there are a few possibilities. The relic might shut down and become useless, or it can transform into an upgrade version or something different. Reg patterns change after he uses his incinerator. Nanachi estimates that after the events at the Indofront, Reg has like 10 uses of the incinerator. So we will have to wait to see what will happen after that. Maybe Reg will just die or his hand will become useless. Is the pattern that Faputa has in her eyes the same pattern as the one Reg has on his helmet? Every relic seems to have a different pattern. So far we have seen like 3, and all of them have a different types of symbols, but the arrangement of the symbols at least looks something similar, like a circle. So like Nanachi says, probably a countdown. Is Reg an interference unit? We know almost nothing about Reg's origins. It is possible that the interference units were made by Reg species to collect data about the abyss. They could have made the interference units by mimicking their robot parts but making them full robots instead of half human, half robot, to be more efficient. Or another possibility is that after they made the interference units and saw the success, they could have took that idea and decided to augment their own body, making them half interference units. So again, we'll have to wait for that, but it doesn't seem too long. The story seems to be focusing on what Reg is, or at least around those robots. But from what we've seen so far, I can say that they seems to be linked, but not the same thing. Why wasn't Reg affected by Ozen using her white whistle? So, a white whistle is made by sacrifice someone that you have a strong bond, transforming one of you from a human to a whistle. And that whistle still has consciousness and have to live the rest of his days like that. The trade-off is that the holder can use the whistle to activate dormant relics and access their power. Ozen uses her whistle to activate the curse wording box. Riko uses her to activate the elevator to go to the 6th layer, but she also can use it to activate Reg. So it looks like you need to focus on a relic that you want to activate. You can use the whistle to activate all relic in the vicinity. Yet Reg activates only when Riko uses her whistle and no other. The reason is probably because Riko and Reg have a bond of friendship and they are connected. Riko is like Reg's master in a way, so Reg powers reacts to that bond. That's why he didn't even hinge to Ozen whistle, because they didn't have that connection. Ozen was just a stranger to him. Why is Ozen so tall and massive? Well, Ozen uses multiple artifacts that she fused in her body to have superhuman strength and multiple abilities, kinda like Bondrewd, so I guess all white whistle do the same thing. Her height and overall appearance were also altered using different artifacts that were never presented or mentioned in the show. So if you see something that is very strange and odd looking, that's definitely something related to an artifact or some abyss power. Is Torka the person that became Lyza's white whistle? Torka was Lyza's husband and a fellow dweller, and that's pretty much what we know about him. But we know that he was not transformed into a whistle. He died in an expedition before Riko was born. We don't know exactly how. It is said that he died because of the curse at the 4th layer, but probably there is more to it. When Lyza married Torka, she already had the white whistle with her, and the one who was sacrificed, well, is a spoiler. In fact, this information was revealed like the next chapter from where the anime left off. So for now, I will just say that the name of the guy who had become Lyza's white whistle is Donnie. How did Bondrewd revive after Rico's team defeated him the first time? Bondrewd used a special artifact called Zoaholic or something like that. This artifact allows Bondrewd mind to be linked to his helmet and this plant thing. If he dies, he just needs someone to wear his helmet and he will take control of that body. Probably he needs that person to want to do that, otherwise he could just use his helmet to take control of his enemies. But that's no problem for him because he has a multitude of Umbra hands as his safe bodies in case something happens to him. How did Bondrewd's body change shape and clothing to match his old body? Well, it's a bit weird but not that complicated. The Umbra Hands bodies are all the same and they are dressed all the same, but they just covered with these large clothes. If you look more closely here, you can see how this Umbra Hands has cotton paddings under his clothes that hides the artifacts and other stuff that he had on it. So it's just Bondrewd that wanted to hide this so people will not suspect or attack the Umbra Hands to take the artifacts. Everyone looks the same but they are just hiding it. Why does this body Bondrewd has have a multitude layer eye with tentacles? Well, this is because these are some artifacts that the body he took over had at the time. It is a combination of two artifacts that does something. It seems like all of Bondrewd's Umbra Hands have a set of artifacts that you can say all of them have a different play style, but yeah, to just simply answer is that some artifacts that Umbra Hand had. Maybe this guy has a bazooka and this guy has lasers or something like that. Did Rico's team destroy the Zoaholic? No, which is stupid. Bondrewd mask was damaged and that body was killed, but they did not destroy the Zoaholic and Bondrewd just used it again, and the reason is because Prushka's will was for both parties to stop fighting and make peace, so they respected her wish and let Bondrewd get away. After he killed and tortured countless kids and other people, and he definitely will do more bad stuff, I don't know what was in their minds to let him go away. I will agree it is kinda stupid. At least Nanachi should have done something after everything that happened, after the torture they were put through, but no, Nanachi just says whatever and they continue their adventure. Is Bondrewd responsible for constructing Edo Front? Yes and no. The Edo Front existed long ago and it was a small city used to travel to the 6th layer. It was like a praying site. Bondrewd just took residence in the ruins and made it his laboratory and base. Probably he modified or reconstructed parts of it, but he was not the original creator of this place. Why did Bondrewd become blessed during the fight at Edo Front? And another question is, what is inside of that case and how they work? Thanks to the cartridge or those cases that contains childs that were raised by Bondrewd, he was able to mimic the experiment he had done to Mitty and Nanachi. In order to be blessed by the abyss, two persons that have a bond needs to ascend from the 6th layer at the same time. One will be transformed into a special hollow like Mitty that could not be killed but still felt all the pain and suffering, so it's even more worse than a normal hollowification, and the other one will be a bit more lucky and will be transformed like Nanachi, where you'll keep your humanity but you will be just transformed and you will get all sorts of new abilities. This is exactly what Bondrewd did here. He stuffed body parts from childs into these cases like we saw with Prushka, like you can see all of those marks that they need to remove to, I think, either remove what's not important or to better stuff her into this case. And Bondrewd uses those cases and the childs to absorb the double curse and for him to receive the blessing. Why is Mitty in Iluburu village? The Mitty in the Iluburu is not the real one and is a copy. After Bondrewd visited the village, Belaf saw the real Mitty and became obsessed with her. Bondrewd didn't want to give Mitty away, so Belaf sacrificed many parts of his body to create an exact copy of Mitty, down to the soul. But how exactly she was made or what power was used for this is unrevealed. It's not clear clear if this was something from the village, from Irumui, or it was a power that Belaf exclusively had. Why is Faputa not affected by the curse? So we finally get here. Faputa seems to be a living artifact, just like Reg. She was born from her mother's wish and 3 cradle of desires that she inherited at her birth. So Faputa, like Reg, is actually immune to the curse, and because of this Faputa had become something like Reg. She's actually completely immune to the curse. Maybe Reg is also immune to it because of his relic powers. Both of them could be just relics that have an actual living body and will. We see patterns on Faputa's eyes, meaning that her entire being is probably a relic that also has a countdown, and Reg's helmet has a pattern, meaning that at least his mechanic body parts have a countdown. So another idea will be that Reg species also augment their bodies with relics. Not really mechanical body parts, but mechanical relics or something, kinda like what the White Whistle do, like we see from Bondrewd or Ozen. So to think that they used artifacts to make them immune to the curse is not really that a far stretch. How do balloons fly up from the 6th layer up to the surface? This is a very good question. Like, how these balloons manage to avoid all of those obstacles and creatures for like a journey of 12 kilometers. The balloons fly up thanks to the air currents that comes from the bottom of the abyss and rises up to the surface. But between the 6th and the 5th layer is a massive lake, so how the balloons traverse it? Well, the lake doesn't cover the entire entrance of the 6th layer. There are multiple entrances, long holes similar like the 3rd layer. Explorers don't use the path because it's just easier to take an elevator than descending around the walls of a hole surrounded by dangerous creatures. There is even an example in the show. In the 4th layer we meet these flesh-eating insects that emigrate from the 6th layer, and they definitely did not take the elevator up. So yeah, a balloon can go up taking the currents and being very lucky to avoid rocks and creatures and all that stuff. Why couldn't Ganja find a viable water source on the 6th layer if Rico's group could find one pretty easy? Well, this is never explained why, but it could be a simple explanation like the geographical changes made water pour out to the surface. There are many explosions around here, so maybe this made many holes and dug up the dirt until water came out. There had been like a couple of hundreds of years between Rico's group and the Ganja, so a lot of environment and geographic change could have taken place here, or maybe they were just lucky to stumble upon a water reservoir, even though that seems to be unlikely, like the Ganja were not that stupid to just not find water. When was the Iluburu village created? Well, like I said in my Story Explained Made in Abyss video, it's complicated to talk about the time, especially in the Abyss, because the deeper you are in the Abyss, the bigger the time flow changes. Outside the Abyss, or the normal world if you want to say, the Ganja had their expedition around 2000 years ago, but for them in the 6th layer it was like 150 years ago. So you can see how big the difference is between those two levels. So to answer the question, the village was created in one of those two periods, depending on your perspective. Why can't the villagers leave Iluburu? When Irumui had become a massive house, all Ganja had entered inside and had become hollows, a different type of hollows. The village had grown over time and its walls had become indestructible. Only a powerful artifact can break it. The only entrance is a jelly door. After Faputa was born, she could not enter the village. She could not pass through that jelly door. It did not let her through. Her explanation is that a child cannot return to her mother womb. In the same way, the Ganja cannot exit. The door does not let them pass. Probably this was the cost of their holification, or Irumui doesn't want to let them out either as a punishment, or maybe she has to fulfill the wish of the Ganja for a safe spot to live in, and that wish was took in a twisted way, not allowing them outside because it's too dangerous. How many Cradle of Desires do we know about? There were 3 of them. The first one was found by the scouts of the Gansha, and then they also found a second one. Both of those artifacts were fed to Yurumui, and the third one was secretly found and held by Wazukyan. But even that one was absorbed by Yurumui when Wazukyan was transformed into a hollow. She had 3 of them inside her for a time, then all of them were transferred to her child Faputa. We don't know if there are more of them. Multiple artifacts of the same type are quite rare. There are only a few examples in the story so far. So it's unlikely that there are more than 3 Craters of Desire, but it remains to be seen. They already showed enough horror. Do we really need more? So these were the questions. If you have more questions about the story, I'll answer them in the comments. If there are enough of them, we can even do a follow-up video. I'm also considering to cover the material from the manga. So far we only have talked about the anime, but it'll be quite some time until we get a new anime, because the manga progression is quite slow. We don't have enough material for another 12 episodes so far. Only like 3 episodes, maybe 4 if you want to stretch it, so it could be years until season 3. You should also check the Made in Abyss wiki. It contains tons of interesting information and it's an interesting read if you are a fan of Made in Abyss. This video was inspired by the FAQ section of the wiki, so thanks to everyone who runs it and updates the information. And also thank you for watching. I hope I will see you in my next video, whatever it will be, but I will promise that will be a good story explanation or something lore related to an anime or a game. See you around. Bye bye.